and we can just have everybody, they can jump in as they log on and all of that. So welcome everybody to the September already meeting of FMburgh.
How is that possible?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we'll quickly do our introductions. What we have on tap tonight is a show and tell. Had two different people lined up. One was unable to do it. So I contacted Beth last week, and she graciously said, yes, I can jump in and fill in the spot. Because I had something I could share, but I figured you guys wouldn't, probably tired of hearing me. But then the second person I found out on Monday was unable to also do it. And it's like, well, it's unfair to put anybody else on the spot. So I do have something that I can share, so you get to hear from both of us this evening. So, but yeah, go ahead and go around the room. Number of years you've been using FileMaker, or what version you started with, however you want to phrase that. And then since I was eating some Twizzlers here, I guess favorite candy to snack on will be our question for this evening. I think we've asked that before, but I think it's been quite a while since that's come up. So I guess whoever would like to start us off.
Todd, you should probably just pick people, like go around your screen or something, or down the list, because everybody's in a different order.
That's right. We all, the screen array is different for each of us.
That is true. That is very good. And then Laura is also reminding me, if anybody does not want to be on the recording, to hide the face now. So how about, I guess we'll just go in order. So Thomas, you're in the upper left on my screen.
Okay, Thomas Makwa with Thomas. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Which Thomas?
Thomas Makwa. Yeah. Sorry about that.
I don't want to step on Tom Waters. I'm sorry. Tom Makwa, profile developer, has been using FileMaker for 30 years or something, since version 2. I like to snack on anything chocolate, so that's fine. But whenever you mention Twizzlers, I'm like, I miss Clark bars and Zag nuts. That's what I miss. So
yeah, Clark bars.
That wasn't the question, but that's my answer.
Okay, that's good. All right, Ken.
Hi, Ken Hallinan. I've been using FileMaker since it came on a floppy disk. Favorite candy is probably caramel creams.
Ah, okay. Good. All right, Paul.
Hi, Paul Mueller, retired. Been using it same as Ken from the time they brought the floppy disk out. As a matter of fact, somewhere around the house I have the floppy disk. I saved it, can't read it, but I have the floppy disk somewhere. And I'd like us to, oh, wait a minute. Dark chocolate M&Ms and Twizzlers. Dark chocolate M&Ms are really, really good. And I'd just like us to take a moment, if we could, a moment of silence for all those stuck in traffic on their way to the gym or to ride a stationary bike.
All right, Beth.
Beth Latta, IT Solutions. Been doing this for 30 years, and I rarely eat candy anymore, but if I do, peanut M&Ms are probably my go-to.
Laura.
Hi, Laura from Cross IT. Been developing since version 9.10. And I do really like chocolate, but usually and interestingly, I chew gum only during work. I don't do it outside of work because it apparently helps me think. And then I don't have to eat a ton of stuff.
Brad.
Hi, my name is Brad Dybert. I have been developing in FileMaker for 25 years, maybe not as long as some of you. Long time though, I think. And I'm a candyaholic, except I put chocolate on the lower part of that list. So anything non-chocolate first.
Kim.
Hi, Kim Coles. I tried out my little bottom thing. You can see I'm Kim from Equiparts, the IT accounting manager. A systems admin is what I am. And since I've been using FileMaker since FileMaker 9, but not really until Thomas told me about FileMaker Advanced. What was that, 12? FileMaker 12, I think. And then I am a chocoholic. I have to admit that. So that's what I like, is chocolates. So.
Jill.
I'm Jill Wellman. I am definitely a chocoholic. As I've gotten older, I have been probably using FileMaker for maybe 8 or 9 years by this time. I lose track. Being a retired person, there are not landmark things like big meetings and big paper publications and grants to mark years by. I am also a chocoholic. In fact, I don't really consider non-chocolate candy worth eating. I do not eat these much anymore because I'm definitely addicted to them, and they also really mess up your electronics and papers. But peanut butter cups are the best.
All right, Teresa.
Okay, hello. Well, so we've got warring microphones here, sorry. So I am Teresa Makwa, work with profile developers with Mr. Makwa over there. I've been working with FileMaker for 12 years, maybe, something like that, since version 8.5. And I'm also a chocoholic, although I'm in the same boat as Jill. Everything else is not worth it. And this is my favorite right there, the Ghirardelli sea salt Suarez.
Yeah.
You just need one, like 2 or 3 times a day. But you know, just to have a little in your system at all times. So
I'm not a one piece of chocolate person, unfortunately. I'm an
but that's why it's downstairs.
Yes.
So I bring up one piece with me.
Yes, yes.
And I guarantee that I'm too lazy
we
to
need a bigger house to make that work.
Right.
All right, Thomas.
Hey everybody, I'm Thomas Waters. I'm soon to be retired from the University of Pittsburgh School of Pharmacy. I'm very excited. This will be the last meeting where I am officially a director of new media there, but I am going to continue working part-time as a temp on my FileMaker projects. So I'm very excited about that. I've been using FileMaker about 25 years. And I'm not a candy person in very much, but I like the Milky Way bars a lot. That would be a real treat for me, is to grab a Milky Way bar.
All right, Bill.
Thanks.
I'm Bill Barnes. I work for St. Vincent College. And I've been developing with FileMaker, I think, since 5 or 5.5, you know, somewhere in that vicinity. And it has to be a Snicker bar. So.
I think Cheryl.
Cheryl Sorensen. I'm the academic records manager at the School of Pharmacy at the University of Pittsburgh. I have been using FileMaker for about 3.5 years. And I would have to say that I am pretty much open to eating any kind of candy that there is. I don't really have a favorite. And usually by the end of the day, my candy dish probably has at least 10 to 15 candy wrappers in the trash.
All right. Well, I am Todd Weller. I think we got everybody else, correct? So yes, I'm Todd Weller. Started with FileMaker 6. Was the first version I used, and I like all candies, but probably if I had to pick 1 or 2, it would be the Snickers bar or the chocolate-covered M&M or peanut M&Ms, because I can tell myself they're protein, so they're healthy. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So, all right. So
are you on a maintenance dose, that one a couple times a day?
I said I'm working on that.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well, I guess we'll go and dive in. Like I said, tonight is a show and tell. The two people that were lined up had conflicts at the last minute and one at the extra last minute. So Beth graciously offered to step in, and then you guys also get to hear from me for a little bit later this evening. So I guess go ahead and take it away, Beth.
Okay. Hopefully you're seeing a screen with my iPhone being displayed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So when Todd asked me to show something, I pulled off, dusted off some old stuff because I've been under a huge deadline. So disclaimer, I didn't do a nice PowerPoint or anything for tonight, but there's two things I just kind of had in the back of my mind that I could show a little bit. The first one is an iPhone feature that is available in FileMaker 19 Go now. And if anybody did attend when I did the Philly user group presentation for the 19 launch, I did cover this there. So I apologize if I'm repeating for anybody who might have been at that. But it's the shortcut feature, the Siri shortcuts. It is iOS only, but it's really kind of fun. So I'm going to show that real quick. And then the other thing I want to talk about is a tool that is not developed by my company, but it's so awesome that I think people would benefit from seeing it. It's for the data API and curl options. It's a tool that Beeswax put together. So I'll show you a little bit about that. And okay, so shortcuts for Siri, we're going to jump in. So what it means is the FMP protocol is now recognized by the iOS. So the operating system now will know if you pass a URL that includes FMP, it will launch FileMaker Go. So a good example is to maybe open a file. Instead of having to tap on your phone, you can say, "Hey Siri, demo shorty." There we go. Okay, now, I forgot to do the look ma no hands. Okay, I didn't tap on anything on my phone, but I'm gonna close out of there and do that again, just to prove it. "Hey Siri, demo shorty." Okay, so what happens is it opens the file. Now this is a file that happens to be local on my phone, and that's pretty basic. It's just the opening script goes to a particular layout where I had that phrase, "Wow, this is really cool," on there. And you probably want to do more than just open a file. So, "Hey Siri, demo do more." Okay, so that's performing a script. So the script is just going to a layout that says, "What else do you want me to do?" I'm going to tap this little tiny link I have down there just so you can see. What's that? Did someone say something?
I'm sorry, my Siri said it didn't understand.
Oh.
Okay.
We have the same problem here.
Right. So I now have a list of 5 records on the screen, right? So I can do another script. "Hey Siri, demo big cats." Okay, and now you can see it did a search. It performed a find to find the ones that were categorized as big cats. So, my list is filtered. Anyway, this is obviously a really ridiculous example of what you could do with it. I'm thinking, it might be nice to enter my timesheet records, or who knows, that you can come up with all kinds of creative things if you have databases that you like to keep in FileMaker Go. But how do you make it work? That part is really easy. "Hey Siri, demo close shorty." Okay, it didn't do it that time, and there's a reason, and I'll show you why. Now I am actually touching the phone, or trying to. It's not responding to me as well. Okay, so the Siri shortcuts. It's an app that is part of, I think it's iOS 11 or later is when shortcuts were introduced. When you open that app, you'll see whatever shortcuts you have in here, okay? And all of the ones that are FileMaker based are gonna have a Safari icon on them because they're basically just a URL call, okay? So you can create a new one by hitting the plus sign. It's very much like Claris Connect, that type of thing where you're doing a flow and you're just following the steps. You can add an action and you can pick an app and you can say FileMaker and you can say run a FileMaker Go script, and here it wants to know what file, and I can pick from what's on my phone. So if I had more files here, I'd have them to choose from so I don't have to type it, so I can pick that. And then here, a script, let's see. I actually haven't done it this way before. I'm gonna say next. And I'm just going to call this test. Okay. That's actually different than the last time I set it up because that's a FileMaker 19 icon, which is different than I set it up. So I'm not being very helpful here. But here's the one that I was going to show you. The reason that it didn't work, it's because here is what the original step looked like. Okay, it's the FMP URL to the file and then script equals close app. That's the name of my script that I want to run. But that was an old demo that I did for the Philly user group. And I renamed my file for this demo FMB. So it didn't work when I talked to Siri because so as soon as I fix the file name, if I go back into my file, and now I say, hey Siri, demo close shorty, because I corrected, there, see it closed out of the file because I corrected that. But back to Siri for a minute. What was the name of that file? Or the name of the script? The script was just close app, right? So I want to actually see, because this has a FileMaker icon. Oops. So here, let's see. Script. Do I get to tell it what script I want? Oh, there we go. Look at that. That's even cooler. So it sees what scripts are in here, but that's not showing all of my scripts, which seems odd. Okay. Sure, ask each time. Let's see what that does. Hey Siri, test.
FileMaker Go 19 says which one? Big cats or do more?
Big cats. Could you hear that? Siri was asking. So.
Just a tick.
Okay. Oh, see, if you notice, it says cat on screen. It doesn't say big cats, so I don't think it heard my answer.
Sorry, I'm having trouble with the connection. Please.
All right. But that was pretty cool. Anyway, that's all I have to show on the shortcut thing. There's, obviously more to it than I even played with in advance. So if you have questions, we can try to figure those things out, and if not, I can move on to the other thing.
Okay, this is Kim. Does FileMaker 19, is that the only version that will do the shortcuts, or does FileMaker 18 do it?
No, it's 19. It started in 19.
This is 19, okay.
Right.
All right, thank you. I'm moving up. I'm moving up to 19.
Oh,
Don't
well,
worry.
now I shouldn't say that. FileMaker 18, I believe you can maybe open a file, but I don't think it can do more than that. It can't run a script.
Okay. All right,
So.
thank you.
Beth, all your files reside on your phone.
Yes. I do believe that, you know, because you've got the URL, if you have the IP of the server or the server address and the file name and all of that. So basically when you are, let's go, whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. Let me edit one of these. So this whole URL that's in here, it knows that that's on my phone, but if we trade out that tilde, is that the name of the character, and you put in the domain name or the server address or what have you, it should work, you know, because it's just basically using a URL to resolve that URL, and it knows to resolve it using FileMaker.
Good, thank you.
Anybody else?
I don't really even know how shortcuts work. So if I wanted to say something like order Uber to go to Lori's, that would just be a shortcut. I just put in that wouldn't involve any FileMaker. Is that correct?
Correct. That is, yeah. I mean, the shortcut app, this is an app that is part of iOS. It comes on your iPhone.
Yes,
it has
I think
nothing
I've
to
seen
do
it.
with FileMaker.
Right.
Like if you notice, for example, I can say, hey, Siri, pay the lawn guy.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And
yes,
it's going to open up PayPal waiting for me to send money to my lawn guy.
Yes.
Right. So it has nothing to do with FileMaker specifically. It's just cool that now FileMaker can utilize it.
Yes. Very good.
Yeah.
I now have a motivation to start making some, I can now think of some shortcuts, which will lead me back to FileMaker.
There you go. All right. So it seems like we've kind of beaten that dead horse. I am switching gears to talk about data APIs and curl. So every new version of FileMaker, I am faced with the knowledge that, you know, even though I consider myself advanced, sometimes expert, depending on the topic, you know, I've been using FileMaker for 30 years and I know how to do an awful lot of stuff. Every version, they're kind of trying to make us more and more programmers, real programmers. You have to learn other things to be able to interact and integrate. So, you know, the web viewer started that whole thing, and you know, all kinds of advancements have happened. And now JSON is just a huge thing. You have to at least understand it. If you can't write it, you have to at least be able to read it, and you have to be able to understand it. But the best way, in my opinion, to learn these things is to find something out there that does a lot of what you want to do and dissect it. So Beeswax actually put this file out, and it was for FileMaker 18, but they had a 17 version, and I think they've got a 19 version out now as well. I'm using 19, but the file is still the demo 18 file. It's just really cool because it makes it kind of clear in FileMaker terms how to do some of these things. So you need to have a hosted server file, and you need to put in your credentials for that file. And you have to have a layout in the file, and you have to know what that layout is in order to access it. And let me see, I thought I had the file open, but maybe I don't. So bear with me for 1 second. All right, let me pull that down here. Oh, shoot. I gotta go look up that. Oh, maybe I don't. I may have to go look up the credentials for this file. Bear with me 1 second, because I want to actually open the file next to it. This tool is talking to the file, but I want to be able to open it. It's talking with credentials called Data API, okay? And I'll explain in a minute. Bear with me 1 second while I find my credentials for that file. You're seeing the screen that has the Data API on it, right? All right, cool. Now, this file is a test file. It is not pretty. It's not supposed to be pretty because it's Data API that we're talking about here. It's not any interface, okay? What we want to prove is that when we have information, that we actually can get the information that we expect to get, and that it's actually doing what it says that it's doing, okay? So in here, we've got the hosted file and the credentials. We've got all kinds of things that you can do. Now, this doesn't matter. This doesn't care about the file right now. I'm just going to practice login. A lot of times you need credentials and you need a token, okay? So this is just an example to show you. It sent a request to the file. It received the token, okay? And these are just all globals over here. So as you use the tool, you see what's happening in the globals. So we can see that our endpoint was that hosted file, and the message returned okay. There was no error, and we got the token that we needed. Okay. Each of these. This is just a slide control in this file. So each of these is kind of information about what's going on. It talks to, explains things to you. You can go into layout mode and learn whatever you want to learn, kind of teaches you as you go. This one talks about the log out, and if you practice that, you click log out, it shows you that it successfully logged out. We've got the login button right here to show, you can log back in and log back out. And it just works. So if you have a situation where you need to do any of these things, you can dissect this file and, plug your information into the places where the information is dynamic and get the results you need. So I'm going to go over to this page because this is really cool. This button here says Get All Records, okay? Now, I'm going to move that over just a bit. This file, the catering file, there are 18,959 records in this file, okay? I'm going to say Get All Records. And look what happened over here, okay? This first part, this message array just tells you, that the stuff was successful. The response array is the piece that is the data, the JSON that matters. So if we start looking through here, here's, this is one record, this is another record, and this is, whatever fields are on the layout that we're connected to are what you show there. And if I scroll through here, that's a lot of data that I just scrolled through. And at the bottom, it gives you the data info for the transaction. 18,959 records, it returned 100 of them. Okay, so it's doing the first 100 records. I'm not going to get into how to get the next 100. That's not the point. The point is how powerful it is that you can just make that call and it grabs everything and puts it into JSON for you. So let's look over here for a moment. You can see date start, JSON result, web GUID, some other IDs, timestamp. So basically 8 fields, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can see there are 8 fields on this layout, right? So that's what got returned. Whatever is on the layout that it is referencing, is what it's returning. So let's see if we can find anything else. I have my laptop in front of my other monitor, so I'm trying to see behind it. Okay, let's find some useful data here. Let's see. Maybe event type, we'll pop that on here. I don't know what that will give us. And let's see. Location state, I don't know, just to have some other data. So we'll browse, save our layout. Okay, well, I don't know if we have any data, so let's see, first of all, if we've got anything out of these 18,000 records. Of course, I probably picked something that's huge. Okay, we've got 4,900 that have data in there, okay, in event type. So we're gonna say get all records again. And if you notice, location state is now in the JSON and event type is now in the JSON. It was that quick. It just went, got it all, packaged it up in a nice nifty JSON array and brought it back. So I think that is super cool. You can also do specific things like, okay, cocktail hour was the event type. If we do find, now this is hard-coded right now, this particular button to find this event ID out of all of those. But let's change it. Actually, let's do something different first. I'm going to go back to getting all my records so I can illustrate something. I did a test where I want to find unit IDs. So there's 25 is a unit ID here, 19 is a unit ID there. There's more 19s, 25s, some that are blank. All right, well, 19 and 25 are definitely there. So let's go here and say find. I changed this button. This one's hard-coded to a particular event ID. This one, I told it to look for the unit ID. And let's put in 25 and hit the button. Okay, so it queried for unit ID 25. And notice this one's 25. This one's, all of my results are based on that query now. And now it's telling me 1889 is my found count, right? Which we knew, or we would know if we come over here and we search for 25, 1889. So anyway, Todd, I don't know how much time you want me to kill, because I know you have something you want to show. I think you're muted. Or at least my phone's on a delay.
Yeah, I was temporarily muted. Sorry about that. Yeah. Because some of the stuff that I was going to go over, you're already kind of covering, so I won't have to spend as much time on it. So if there's something more that you want to tell us, great. If not, I can take over, and if we have time left over, we can just open the floor for general discussion about anything FileMaker related. So.
All right. Well, let me just spend a couple more minutes and wrap things up, and then I will turn it over to you. Okay, so the other thing that I find challenging in FileMaker, though, is grabbing the data that I need. You know, it's wonderful to get this JSON, but then it's like, okay, if I'm in a script, how do I say to my script, okay, what is my unit ID for, you know, or what is my list of fields that are in here, right? And so, you know, you kind of start opening the data viewer and let's see, I'll ignore all of my junk in here. Let's create a new one. I don't have my monitors are aligned well. Okay, so you start putting, you know, JSON, get element, and, well, we want to point to that big global field, right? But now what do we want to look for? Let's see. We want to know what's in field data. Did that work? Well, that didn't give us anything, you know, so it's sort of like, okay, I think we also need, oops, to make sure we have things in quotes, and response.field data. Nope, that's not it. You know, so it's sort of like this trial and error trying to figure out how to find what you need. And that's not the right one. I think it's data. Oh, there we go. I found one that worked. Okay, so here you see response, and then we use a dot, and then we know we're going into data. Okay, so we've got the data, and then because data is an array, we need those brackets, and those brackets help us find the field data, right? And if I put data 2, did anything change? Yeah, it looks like I got something different, or data 19. Okay, so you can see I'm getting a different record when I put, let's see, 225. Well, we know that there were only 100 results returned, so 225 returned nothing. I don't get an error because my syntax is correct, but let's see, and there's 100, maybe I only did have, there's the 99th record. Okay, JSON is zero-based, right? So if 100 records are returned, you've got from 0 to 99. You don't have 1 to 100, you have 0 to 99, and that gives you your 100. Okay, so getting to figure out how this works, the data viewer is critical for that, but it's challenging. And there is a, let's see, just monitor that for right now to get it out of my way. I'm going to copy this chunk of JSON here for a minute and go to a link. Where is it? Here it is. It's a site called Code Beauty, and I'll put the link in the chat when I'm done. So you can paste your JSON in here, and then you can do things to it to make it easier to understand, right? So you can say like tree viewer. So now I know there were 2 objects, an object called messages, which just had that little bit of information at the top. You know, we can see that over here. So that was a message object. And then we had the response. And the response had data and data info, right? So the data info told us that, you know, the query returned 1889 for the record count. We've got 100 of them in our data. Total records in the table, you know, whatever the data info is here. But then here is all of that actual data. And if I want to go see, okay, the 11th record would be 10 because 0 plus. And then I can, you know, see if there's portal data or field data, you know. So this really helps make it more clear. And if you use something like this tree viewer, you know, it kind of helps for you to write even what you want to put in the data viewer to know where you have to put your brackets and your dots and so on in order to get the right syntax to grab what you need. Okay, so very useful tools, I think. And what was the last thing I was going to say about that? I forget. I lost my train of thought. There was something I was going to mention about that data, but I guess we'll save that for another time. Or if anyone has a question, maybe it'll spark. Oh, portal data. I just saw it over here. If the layout that you're using has a portal on it, you will actually get rows in the portal array that contain the data from your portal. So if I threw a portal on here and I did my get, I would get the list of the fields in the portal. And if there's one record, there will be one. And if there's three, you know, there will be 0, 1, and 2 will be the three items in there. So anyway, very cool tool. I will post the link to the tool and the link to the Code Beauty in the chat, and that's all I got.
Very cool. I do have a question, Beth. Do you know on the portals, does it return like the height of the portal, or does it actually return all related data, whether it's visible in that portal or not? Do you know?
Everything is based on the layout. So if I have a portal here with 3 fields in each row,
okay,
I'm going to get just those 3 fields, you know, because here we had our 8, 9, 10 fields of data here, which correspond to these fields. I will get the list of the fields and any data that's in them, but it's not given me any, at least this particular function is not giving me any positioning or anything like that.
Okay.
There is a metadata feature in here. There's all kinds of things that I haven't even begun to explore. And there is one called layout metadata. Oh, what the heck, we'll push it. Let's see what it says. Okay, this is telling us about the layout itself. Auto enter, 4-digit year, global. Yeah, I'm not quite, oh, I guess that is for each of the fields maybe. I'm not sure what that's giving us, but let's see. And there's no portal metadata, but it's giving us display type, characters, yeah. Okay, oh, okay, so locations, date, event type. It's giving some information about the fields, but it's not physical location, I don't think. It's more about how the field is defined.
Okay.
So, anything else?
What would edit do? I just my
Well, edit is really cool because it actually will write the data back to the database.
Oh, you're editing a record, but it brings up a little
right. So
display for that. Okay.
So if this was wired properly, this was a sample file that came from beeswax, and I think it was intentionally or initially set up to, you could call your own file, right? So it could call itself, and so you would be running your query on your data that's already here. There's a sample item table in here and a stock transaction. So if I were to run this in here, it would be updating. These are globals in here. Okay. So, you know, you could change apple to orange and then update the record. But notice it says record is missing because I am not configured to edit the file that this is actually based on. Right. I did not put a portal here for my catering file. But if I had, and I'm actually using this, the use case I forgot to mention, we have a client who is using FMBetter forms, which actually I heard about from FMburgh a couple Octobers ago now. I think it was 2 years ago. Charles did a demo for you guys, and we actually took that product and we're working on an implementation for someone who they're building a website. It's a membership portal, and there are separate servers, and we need to keep their staging database separate from their real database because they don't want that anywhere near the web server. So we're using data API calls to pass the JSON back and forth so that FileMaker itself doesn't talk. You know, you don't choose to open the file from the host. There's no external reference to the database itself. But using the data API, we can query the live database and bring back the chunk of data. And then we're going to be sending the data back. And I've tested it, and it actually really does work. You can update the data and write it back to the records over there. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's all I got.
Okay, thank you, Beth. Very cool.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you, Beth.
Mm-hmm.
Let me, I will go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so I'm going to kind of continue with where Beth had left off, because one of the things that came out with FileMaker 19 is that FileMaker, or Claris, excuse me, they figured out that, well, we have this data API that you can use to query data and get information and stuff back. That why don't we make that a script step? And so it's called, the script step is actually execute FileMaker data API. And I have to admit, when I first heard about it, was one of those features that they say, hey, this is a new feature in FileMaker, whatever version, and it was like, yeah, what's the big deal? Well, last month when we had a chance to hear some of the stuff at Engage, it kind of got me thinking, and so I went ahead and grabbed the demo file that was referenced that Geist Interactive had put together, that was just kind of talking about it. And so that's what we're looking at here, and a lot of the very similar stuff to what Beth had covered with using the data API talking to a hosted file on a server. You can do the same things within your own database. If you want to get information about your layouts, there's a format for the call, and then it comes back and tells you about your layouts here that you can see. Are they in folders? What's their base table? How many there are? All that kind of stuff. Then there's the table's metadata, which again gets you like what its base name is. And you can see it's very similar formatting where there's a message chunk up here at the top, and then there's the response that then you can parse out at the end. You can get layout specific data, where again it's telling you what the field types are that are on that layout. Again, whether there's a portal, specific table metadata, which gets you all the information about the field. So I got this and just started playing around with it. And the one that really intrigued me was this one up here, where you can actually do a find within your database. And we've already seen, similar code here before, where you got your message, your response data, then you get down to, the field data. And this here is a very simple search, where we're querying for contacts that are in California, and it pulled up, that number of records. And so the use case that I thought of and what I have here in this demo file is something that we do on occasion. It's not something we do all the time, but one of the things that's nice to do is you don't want somebody to be in here editing this particular record and change it accidentally. So one of the common design patterns is to use some type of card window. And so what that does is now they're editing in here, but if they come in here and make a change, using a script trigger, you can say, you're changing a record. What do you want to do? Do you want to save that change, or do you want to revert the change? And it's just, a very nice interface, rather than relying on, are the users going to understand what, the commit record is and all that kind of stuff. And so typically the way that you would do that, you know, is we'll show that I change that to road. I click here, and it set it back to drive. Typically what I would do is when you open up that card window, you grab every field on the layout that is in a global field or global variable. And then you have this whole series of if statements that if the global value has been changed from the current value, you set it back if they decided to cancel. Obviously, if they're going to accept it, they just go ahead and click OK and move on. And I thought, well, there might be a better way to do that if we can get all of the information on the layout that we want in that field data JSON object. Then we're able to just, one script step gets us all of that information. If you add a field, remove a field from the requirements, it makes it very easy because, as Beth demonstrated, you just drop the field on the layout that you're using. You don't have to, go through and do a whole bunch of scripting and that kind of thing. And so that's kind of where I was going from. And the way I figured it out is exactly as Beth did. I used the data viewer, which if you're not using the data viewer, you really need to be using the data viewer, because it's kind of like your little sandbox where you can play around and test some things. But what I did just for the sake of the demo is, and I set it up this way where I'm writing stuff to a specific field and things like that. But everything I did actually did in the data viewer while I was figuring it out. And so the API request starts out where I'm pointing it to this specific layout. I still don't understand why they say layouts, but you only declare one layout. It's just the way it is, and you accept it and move on. And so what I'm doing, obviously, is I'm passing the contact ID, which is a UUID. So it's unique, so I should be only getting one back. And then I just throw the sort in here by the field name, because from the demo file, I couldn't tell if you could leave the sort out or not, so I left it in there. So if I go ahead and run the script that's attached that runs that API request, this is the response that I get back. Again, very similar to what we saw, where there's a message object and then a response object underneath that has all of the fields on that particular layout. And then from there, what I did is I actually used a series of JSON get elements rather than trying to write the entire path out. Is I just started peeling layers of it away. So the first thing I did is I saw that, okay, well, messages and response obviously look like the two main objects that I'm getting back. So if I use, here's the field that result went into. If I use JSON get element messages, then I see just the element. And this here is where I got tripped up a little bit, is because even though I saw that they were square brackets, it didn't click as to what that meant. And so I had to do a little bit of trial and error before I realized, oh, it's an array, so I need to get, object 0. And so that's where like the next step down was, as I was playing around with it, as I took that object that I created and then used this 0 to get the array, and now I've got just my result. So I did the same thing for the response. Again, going back to the main JSON result that was returned by the API. When I run this, now you see it's inside that response. We've got our data, and then I come down here and I can see the data info. Obviously, this is concerned about the data, so if we move over here, nest it one more step to remove the data object. Now we're down to that. Because I learned what I needed to learn, I know now that I need to get the 0 array out of that data object. So that gives me my field data and some information down here as far as, again, the portal data, the record ID, stuff like that. And then the final thing is, what does the field data look like? And now I'm left with just that JSON. Now from that point, what I did, and hopefully you guys can see this, okay, I'm going to go ahead and get into the script editor, is that this is my script that runs whenever the window opens. So the only thing that I had to do that took a little bit of figuring out is that obviously the query that I'm sending can't be a static thing. It needs to be dynamic, because each record is going to have a unique ID, and if it's going to work the way I need it to work, I've got to find that exact record. So it took just a little bit of trial and error to get the formatting correct. And again, because both the query and the sort are arrays, I'm actually creating them as their own JSON objects up here, and then creating it as an array when I assemble the entire JSON object that's going to be the payload that goes to the data API. And the one thing that I learned is that I assumed that if I put like my query or my sort variable here and said it was an array, it would just automatically put the brackets around it. That did not happen. So that's where you see here, I'm just putting those square brackets around it so that it knows that it's an array. So that's the request. The script step itself obviously is very simple, where it's just API result, and then with that request, just doing a little bit of error trapping here just in case, because I can't help myself, so I error trap. And then this here is where we start to parse things out, and all of those different steps that we've gone through there with the tabs. I'm just doing it all in a single let function, so that it's it does it all at once to get me, in this case, the API message that was returned, and then I'm just doing a quick check here to make sure that the code number is a 0. It's kind of nice that they use the same numbering scheme in the API as the regular FileMaker error. So if you see a 101 or a 401, fighting chance of knowing what those errors mean. So 0 is good. Again, it should not return an error because I'm searching from a record that I know exists. But again, I couldn't help myself, so I went ahead and trapped for the error here. And then the last step is to then just go ahead and say, let's go ahead and set now a global variable where I'm going to get the response, pull the data object out of that, get array 0, get the field data, and now this double $ current record variable is just that field data object by itself, and it's I've got it stripped out, and then I'm ready to go ahead and open the window and do whatever I need to there. Now, what was really nice with using the information in the data API is that if I needed to undo anything, is that I can actually use set field by name instead of having to have a separate step for each field that I may need to roll back if they decide, oh, I don't want to make those edits. And because you're dealing with fields on the layout, the name of the name value pair that you see in your JSON object is the field name. So you don't have to try to translate it or make sure that it's named correctly. It's just going to be what the field is named. So I'm able to, as long as you know what your target table is, I'm able to get the field name from the list of keys, set the the target field : or table : field name here. Then I grab the previous value out of the JSON object by field name. Then I look at the current value by just going get field of the field name. And then if they're not equal, then just do set field by name and set it back to the previous value. And then you just keep looping through however many objects are in your JSON. So if you need to remove a field or need to add a field, you just add it to the table that you're pulling the JSON from, or that data API call from, and you don't have to change anything that's in your script and have a whole bunch. Because I've written scripts where there's been 15 fields, so I've got 15 if and ifs, because it's like, well, I don't want to touch it if it hasn't really changed, but you still have, so your script is, 300 lines long or something, you know, where this makes it a little bit more compact. So there's a lot more that I need to explore with this, but that was one of the, you know, the use cases that I came up with was, you know, being able to, you know, click here, get all the information, and then decide, you know, am I going to accept that change or am I going to roll it back? So that's what I have. Any questions? Hopefully I didn't go through that too quickly.
I have kind of a basic programming habits or something question. Do you, because I don't manage to compulsively enough error check, do you have some place where you have error checks that you frequently use just sitting around and you paste them in, or are they just, you can just auto type them so fast that it doesn't matter?
I mean, I do have a couple snippets that I keep, a couple different, I mean, because the big one is obviously error trapping whenever you do a find.
Right.
So I do have like a chunk of code that's enter find mode and then set field with, you know, no criteria, perform find, and then grab the error after that. Because even if you ignore the find, you ignore the error, you still need to trap for it. So that's one of the things that I've tried to do. You know, sometime, I mean, that's probably the main place that I trap for errors, but you know, because typically if you can't find a record, something bad may happen if the user doesn't know where to be directed to after that. I don't know if anybody else has any other thoughts on that.
I can mention a couple other things that I always trap for. If you're going to use go to related record, I often check for an error right after that. Because if for some reason it didn't go to a related record, you know, let's say you're going to go to a related record and set some value,
if there's no
and maybe open a new window or maybe not, but if it doesn't find it, it's still going to try to do something. So after go to related, I always do it. Before I do a replace step, I always make sure that I'm on the table I expect to be on, because replace is not undoable. But yeah, those and then the finds are kind of the most common.
Okay, thank you.
I guess one other, and sometimes it also depends on like what's going to happen next. Like if I'm generating a PDF that I want to attach to an email, I'll trap to make sure the PDF was successful before I try to create the email that it'll attach it to. But if it's just generating the PDF, you're going to know whether it ends up on your desktop or not. You know, so sometimes, you know, I guess I do selectively, you know, based on, you know, like what's the next action, and you know, if this fails, does the script just stop, or you know, what is the next step? You know, so you know whether to kick the user out or at least alert them that, you know, I wasn't able to create this Excel file or, you know, some other export or something like that. So, anything else? All right, well, I guess if there's nothing for me specifically, does anybody have one more thing?
Thank you both for the impressive demonstrations. Very helpful.
You're very welcome.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thanks, Todd. Thanks, Beth.
Yeah, thank you.
I agree.
You're welcome.
I enjoyed seeing the shortcuts, the Siri shortcuts. I didn't realize how powerful that was.
I have a question, but it's not necessarily FileMaker based. Kim, how did you get that nice little tag underneath your video there?
Okay. Okay, I use a program called ManyCam, CAM, and I do a lot of GoToMeetings and things like that for work. So GoToMeeting doesn't have virtual backgrounds or anything, so I use ManyCam to set up different things. I can put icons and the bottom third on there, and my own backgrounds and stuff. And then you tell GoToMeeting to use that camera. So I tried it with Zoom tonight to see if it would do it, and it does. It's not using it's going through I have an iMac, but instead of using what's the FaceTime camera that says, I just tell it to use ManyCam, and that's how that came up.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else have one more thing?
Nope.
Okay, well, then I will go ahead and reshare because I had just a couple announcements that I wanted to jump into before we closed shop this evening. So I'm going to reshare. So the first announcement, we mentioned this last month, but the Workplace Innovation Jumpstart is scheduled for the end of this month. It's coming from both Profile Developers and Cross IT, September 23rd and 24th. And it's at the Training and Workplace Development Center at Linden Point in Hermitage, PA. And we're going to go from concept to completion of a iOS FileMaker Go app, just to kind of get people's brains thinking about all the things you can do with FileMaker, which is why we've called it a jump start rather than like one of the workshops that we've done previously. So we'll kind of cover all of those things from concept to deployment and everything in between. So announcement number 2 is that the Claris Engage on-demand sessions are now available. They're at the Claris Academy, where you can view all the content. They have sessions on, deployment, design, integration, mobility, web. I think there's 8 or 9 different categories, plus the replays of the actual live sessions that were recorded during the 2 days of Engage. And the only caveat is it requires a free Claris community login to participate. So once you log into the community, you just select the Claris Academy, and there's a link that goes directly to all of the Engage sessions. So if you want to check any of those out, it is there for the taking. And, oh, went too fast. Did it again. Sorry, everyone. There we go. Yeah, so FMburgh, we do have a group on LinkedIn, but just recently we've also set up a Slack channel, which I know some of us used a little bit during Engage, just to talk to each other outside of the meetings and stuff. So if you're not a member of either of those and would like to be, Laura Betts is the best bets for getting that rectified. So you can just talk to Laura and she can get you set up as needed for either or both of those. And then survey results, just because it's been like months since we've actually shared survey results, so I'm kind of anxious to share these with you guys tonight. So we've got, Claris Engage is going to be in San Diego next summer. So we asked, about your plans to attend. Nobody knows they're going to be there. Nobody has a pretty good chance of going there. The majority says it looks promising, but they got to get approval from the boss. A few that are doubtful. And then nobody said it was finished before it even began. So, Second question we asked was, with the on-demand sessions for Engage, which topics do you plan to investigate in more detail? And so I'll just go ahead and, like I said, there's business, deployment. Everybody was interested in design, integration, mobility. Everybody was looking at modernization, web, and then the partners, and then the Engage live session rewind. So, and then the last question we asked was, which of these foods that Pittsburgh made famous are part of your regular diet? Nobody wants zucchini. Nobody said Mancini's bread. Nobody said Sarris's candies. We had a few people for the Pittsburgh salad, which is I couldn't believe the first time I went someplace and ordered a steak salad and it didn't come with French fries. I just thought that was a thing. So the Permane sandwich, chip chopped ham, smiley cookies, Iron City beer, had a few more for pierogies, and of course everyone uses Heinz ketchup. So. All right, important dates. Our next meeting will be October 7th, which will be, I believe, our 8th anniversary meeting, which is hard to believe that we've been going at this for 8 years already. Still working out the details, but it'll be first Wednesday of October. Again, mentioned the Claris Engage conference in next year is actually in September, which I think that's the latest I ever remember having an Engage conference. I don't know, they've always been late July or early August. Does anybody recall of a conference being outside of those 2 months before?
No.
But I mean, San Diego's a wonderful city, so.
There was the conference after 9/11, wasn't there? Weren't we in Florida? Wasn't that FileMaker? Because I know we went to Disney World, and it was like 2 weeks after 9/11, 3 weeks after 9/11. And I think that would have been a FileMaker DevCon.
Yeah, that was
I don't
before
think so.
That was before my time. So.
And maybe it was a WebStar or some other conference then, I guess.
Okay. And then, if anybody cares, the animated Superman Man of Tomorrow arrives on Blu-ray on Tuesday. So just throwing that out there. Like I said, for our next meeting, still to be determined. Hopefully, we'll actually be able to meet in person and share Dairy Queen cake with. So if not, you'll be on your own, on the hook for your own, cake or pie or dessert or whatever you want to use to celebrate the 8th anniversary of FMburgh. So, and we will try to send out a survey. So I think that's all we've got. Anybody come up with any questions in the meantime that we can talk through, or anybody have one more thing that we can circle back to?
I have one more thing. We are in the middle of a system upgrade, and I am having a difficult time with users. I know that's not unusual, but so I have some of the departments are ready to go live, and some of them have been dragging their feet to give me the changes that they need. Does anyone have like a recommendation of something that's in layman's term that you share with people besides yelling at them for months? How do you tell them, look, I gotta have this, or we can't go live until you tell me? Is there any recommendations? I've been going past the managers and just talking to the people that actually do the job, because I was trying to get each manager to talk to their team and then give me the information.
Your next paycheck will be held until.
Well, that's true. I do oversee the payroll, but I could do that. but that could be a problem though.
Yeah. Actually,
I want to continue getting one myself.
Oh, okay.
I think the one, in all seriousness, the one thing that I ended up doing, Kim, was a project a few years ago for our sister company. We were working with one of their customers to do EDI, and I couldn't get anybody to respond to find out whether the formatting of the file was correct and all of that kind of stuff. So I finally sent an email that said, I'm just going to go ahead and turn my system on because since you're not giving me any feedback, it must be ready to go. And within hours, I had whoa, wait a minute, let's talk about this email back from them. So I don't know if that's, an option where you just say, this is the drop dead date and we're going to switch over and whatever you don't have. I don't know if that would be an option for you, but sometimes you have to push them or they're going to keep dragging their feet.
Yeah, that has been a thought saying we have two FileMaker servers. One is FileMaker 14 and one is FileMaker 18, which and I keep telling them they can't talk to each other. You can't open up, vice versa. You just can't do it. And they but that may be what I'll do one day. It's just like, okay, we're going live, and if you can't connect to it, oh well, you didn't tell me ahead of time. So then I'm going to be spending the next few months anyhow programming like crazy. It's really it's hard because the solution that I have, our in-house solution, I mean, it took me probably 6 to 10 years to make, and they want it all done in 6 months and or less, but they haven't given me any feedback what they want, so I really haven't done that much. And there happens to be a pandemic going on, and I'm setting up people to remote workers and all that stuff, because I try to tell them, FileMaker is not my only job. I'm sorry, Claris. So, But okay, that's probably what I'll do, is just say, okay, let's go for it, and then I'll hear the gnashing of teeth afterward.
I would say the key is, as long as you can flip it back, even if you just give them a taste for like a half an hour, that'll at least wake them up a little bit.
But you know what? That's a solution, because it is two different computers, so I could say, okay, turn off. I can close all the databases on 14. They have to, so they can't access them. And you're right. It'll probably only take a half hour.
I did that. I did that.
Okay.
I set up a new FileMaker Set 19 server, and I just turned off all the databases on the old server. I had told people that they would have to update their version of FileMaker, and that people that didn't couldn't connect. And it didn't take very long after the old server was turned off till we had people updated.
Okay. All right. That sounds like the best answer, is just to force them to do it.
Yeah.
It's better to apologize than ask permission.
Well, I agree with you on that one.
At least sometimes easier to apologize than ask permission.
Yes.
Less red tape.
Yes.
Anybody have anything else?
Yeah, I forgot to tell you, on October 26th, IUP, Indiana University, hosts every year an assessment institute. And this year it's an online virtual event. But I'm doing a presentation with 2 faculty members on the database that I built and put into effect last fall, called PrimerX, which allows our students to document their co-curricular activities. And we're going to talk about why we created it as a web app and how it's functioned and so on. So that's going to be at the end of October.
Oh, very cool.
Cool.
Now, are we just waiting for Paul's joke now?
I don't know, but
if anybody sees me talking to myself, I'm in a staff meeting.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us this evening, and Bill and Brad. thanks for joining us tonight. Nice to see you guys.
Thank you.
Stay healthy.
Thank you.
Well, we'll keep you posted on next month. Like I said, hopefully we can all get together and finally eat Jimmy John sandwiches all at the same time again, but we'll see. So
That would be great. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
Good night.
Thank you.
all right. Have a
Good
good night,
night.
everyone.
Good night.